Hello, this is Lisa Lee and welcome to my channel. This reading, it's funny because I sat down to meditate for a topic, and as soon as I sat down to meditate, I heard one of my guides came through with like a mantra, and the mantra was like, not everybody sucks, not everybody sucks, not everybody sucks. And so there's something about having just an experience of the world where everybody sucks, or being stuck in like something there, because all of these cards that my guides had me chose represent a beginning. Like they represent a beginning of something for me. So when I was in meditation again and I sat down and it was like, not everybody sucks, not everybody sucks, not everybody sucks, and then I went to go pick the cards and I think I was expecting something different. Then a look back over a period of time. So this like every deck that was chosen, I started with, like, I got it in, around the same time. Like I got these decks like all kind of around the same time. And again, it represents a beginning. And so our guides are sort of like cautioning us to be able to look back over the last couple of years. There's something about the mantra, like, not everybody sucks, not everybody sucks, not everybody sucks. That is important for your development right now. Let's see where that's going to take us. Not everybody sucks. Not everybody sucks. The devil. Not everybody sucks. So, all right, let's see. With the Three of Wands and the Hierophant and the Strength card and the Four of Emotions, with the Tower, ooh, and the Chariot. Okay, let's get in. All right, let's kind of jump all the way into this. I like seeing the Tower card. I always actually like attribute the Tower card with a positive thing. And so there is something about the experience. One of the first things I want to say with the Devil card here is that your guides have been cautioning you. They've been talking to you about kind of the same thing. And that is to, like, if you want your magic to be operational, if you want to even like have magic that, like, like facilitates change, belief is permission, belief is powerful, but we have to, we kind of have to work on our unconscious minds, our unconscious like body. The underworld is the unconscious place within you. And having a relationship with that there's an initiation that goes with that whole process. But the unconscious mind is connected to the collective unconscious. The conscious mind is connected to the collective consciousness that we call reality. And so when we think about what you have had to endure in the way of pushing through structures that did not offer you what you expected, that did not meet your expectation. There's like building your foundation on a position of reality and a position on others. All right, let's see what we have here. The vision, the womb, whenever we have somebody who is like set apart, the father, yeah, I felt like that self, and the kiss. Not everyone is like set apart at birth for a unique experience of life, but when you've been set apart at birth for a unique experience of life, when you have had a unique experience of life so far as you can tell, right? So like when you look back on, like, from a conscious place, you're not really talking too much about the unconscious space. We're talking about the conscious space. When we look back at the unconscious space, we understand that what influences our magic, what influences our manifestation much more powerfully than our will to have or procure or live a story that is or is not our story, is a story that we are or not like in contract to participate with. Like, there's so many things about what it means for us to like step into our lives and participate from our lives. But what motivates us most, more than anything else, is going to be the unconscious stuff. And what we manifest more than anything else is going to be manifested from the unconscious stuff. And what we're capable of, both in terms of like the organization from within and the organization that we experience with the other worlds, you know, when that extension, you know, the collective unconsciousness connected to like your unconscious space, it's a whole language, it's a whole experience. For that to be useful for you in any way, for you to have some sense of power, you, like, again, it's like super important for you to know yourself, for you to really know what's motivating you. For a lot of you, what motivates you more than anything else is safety. More than anything else is just, I want to be safe. And so with the kiss being about like you are worthy of love, the vision being about what you were born and meant to achieve, like the vision that you had for the life that you were meant, like, how do I get this right? Because this is, you know, some of this stuff is so trite, the way that people explain it, and I want to do better. You know, so when we come in to the experience of our life, what we are actually doing when we decide to live our lives, and I know that a lot of you can't fathom, you know, sitting in the place of the other worlds, the underworld, that place of potential before you become a living material being, an operator through the stories that are in fact chosen. And I'm going to explain to you why those stories are chosen. Those stories are chosen because you are bringing God, life force energy, the creator, you know, in the form like of your soul and your essence into the structure of a life story that entails untangling a mess on all of the ancestors that are attached to the genes that express and the stories that come with them and the things that have to work themselves out. The love that this came through a reading this week, the love that you have for your family is the impetus for you taking on the journey and the story of the life that you're in, and bringing God and the perspective of God and the creative capacity of God into that karma, into that story, into that structure, into that place, to lift out everything that is attached to it. And that's attached to the whole, right? And so it's a much bigger picture than, you know, fair or unfair, deserve, don't deserve, good or evil in relationship to like cause and effect. Like there's such a bigger picture at play, even with the kind of stuff that we come up against and the reasons that we actually even have those experiences to begin with. And then how that intersects with the people that you meet and their karma and the stories that they're attached to and the ancestors that they're working out the stuff of with the life force of God through the lives they chose. You see how big and beautiful it actually is? And so when it comes to the vision, right, when it comes to your frame of mind, your perspective, your belief system, what you're building your tower on, not everyone sucks, not everyone sucks, not everything sucks. With the kiss here being about you are worthy to be loved. You're not worthy of demanding love from one particular person or another because you think that you should have it because of how you feel about them. I mean, there's a lot there. You know, we're not worthy of hierarchies of love in the way that we have come to believe that we are. Like there's a lot that we have to look at when we understand that even love itself never exists unaccompanied, and therefore there is no perfect love. And what love is an aspect of alchemy that is working through, again, these stories and these circumstances imperfectly because of the ingredients that accompany love in order to get to an outcome of some emancipation somewhere for the consciousness of the whole. What a bigger picture we are actually a part of. And so when we're grappling with whether or not we're going to be properly loved, nobody loved us right, this person let us down, we want to love that person, they don't want to love us. So many things like that. You know, it's kind of like building our house on this tower, our belief systems, our unconscious convictions that there is no hope because of these standards that we don't, you know, the structure here with the Hierophant. There is no hope because of age and what it, you know, people appreciate different things like, you know, values and da-da-da-da-da. You know what I mean? Like there's so many things here that like you're actually not bound by, and therefore building your tower on truths related to limitations given to you by circumstances, having to do with the hierophant, you know, the external structures and organizations and the things that fail, and that you have to push your way through, that you have to push the power of God and the story of God through. Even a concept of God. I mean, there's so much there. That's what this Chariot. This is not an easy life. It's not an easy life for anybody. And so with the Father here being about that divine masculine aspect of your agency, with the womb being about, again, the template, the DNA, the blueprint, what you're brought in the way of traits, gifts, assets, your inheritance, your actual wealth. Those of you that have been calling in wealth, wealth is your inheritance. Your inheritance are your talents, your voice, your sense of humor, the way that you look. That's what wealth is. The stories that you come with, your capacities related to those stories, the influences that you co-create with. That's what wealth is. Money is a neutral substance. It's something completely, something totally else. And so a lot of us, when we are manifesting wealth and we're manifesting wealth, again, look at the underworld, look at the unconscious influence. Yeah, I mean, this is important. I mean, it's really important for us to sit with this for a second. The work that you do on yourself, making yourself capable of magic, making yourself more attuned to the subtle energies, all of that is work in the underworld. All the work in the underworld starts with the work that you do with your unconscious space. If that is something that you are still running away from, and there are so many telltale signs of whether or not you're running away from it, with the frenetic energy with which you feel everything you have to be moving constantly, you have to be producing constantly. Who are you if you're not getting the validation? There's so much that we do on the hamster wheel to avoid that encounter with our unconscious space and everything that it brings up, including the stuff that is confusing and scary and that we don't know how to deal with. With the self here being we are so many aspects of God that make up the self. We are so many aspects. Those genes that come together and express themselves in unison are aspects of God that pre-existed us and that express through different stories to refine. And that's an evolutionary process. And so you are not expressing as one singular expression. I see much more like the kaleidoscope. This wheel of movement through experiences and different ages and times. And so there's something here about the integration process that you are a part of, that you are bringing wisdom and consciousness and emancipation through with you as you experience these things. And you have a lot of power here. You have a ton of power here. But with the Father, where we have limitations, but there are limitations. You're not going to be somebody else ever, no matter how hard you try. No matter how hard you play that role, you are not that person. You abandon your life so completely, you give yourself over to forces of insecurity, forces of envy, and then the whole experience and the quality of life and what you produce and what you manifest from that unconscious place, whew. And the reason why we take responsibility is not because we're damning ourselves or we're feeling so bad. It's because we're taking our power back. We're stepping into a place of power that says, yes, there are limitations to who I am, what I am gifted with, the life circumstances that I have, and how I'm meant to express through those life circumstances. There are limits to what you know and you don't know, the maturity level that you're at and you're not, and where you want to be. The limits are the lines that you can choose any color to color in around. The art project that is your life does include certain parameters. But you are built with everything you need to overcome those parameters. You're built with everything that you need to create something really magical, amazing, emancipating, beautiful through those parameters. You bring a vision and a perspective through those parameters that can be anything. You can create anything. And so what are you creating with the Devil card here when you keep on going back to these stories, this again with this Three of Wands and the Four of Emotions? We're seeing an expectation of grief. We're seeing an expectation of it's a distraction. When you're expecting all the worst things and when you're getting ahead of it and where you're just going to win, I pick up on, it's if I put my head up into the collective energy with the antenna in the wrong spot, boy, You know what I mean? Do I see the way in which, like, and it's an uncomfortable laugh, because it's like, whoa, the way that people can torture themselves, the way that we can all torture ourselves. Because I do feel, you know, very powerfully with the Hierophant and the Strength card that you are incredibly powerful, incredibly strong, and able to move the mountain of this structure from within. But with the 3 of Inspiration and the 4 of Emotions, where you're kind of just looking at the wrong goal, looking at the wrong goalpost, looking at the wrong information, tuning into the wrong radio station. And like, why are you tuning into that radio station with the Devil there and the Tower there? What are you building your platform? What are you building your foundation on, essentially? What vision, really, are you building on when we look at the fact that there is an unconscious influence that is driving you with the Chariot there? There's an unconscious influence with the White Horse and the Dark Horse. That unconscious influence, if you think of the White Horse as being your higher self trying to pull you on the right path, and the other horse, and whatever, Dark Horse, White Horse, like there's not, I just realized that that's a weird, but anyway, the Dark Horse, you know, we can just say that that is the destroyer. The destroyer can often help you make sure that you don't continue down a path that you want more than anything, but it was never yours to have in the first place. You built your foundation. If you build your foundation on a lie or false drive, right? You know what I mean? If you build your foundation on the possession and acquisition of somebody else, or if you build your foundation on a certain type of winning at all costs, if you're in any way doing an ends justify the means type of living, that's a tower that is going to fall, because it is just, I don't care who you are, God does not hate you enough to let that tower continue, because that is a reshkakal, like just in the making, in terms of where that leads you at the end of a life where there's no life that's been lived, and there's only been like the driving force of an unconscious influence that took you away from the path that you wanted to fulfill and everything that you loved about what it meant to come into the world that you purpose to come into. Imagine choosing a family to bring God into the experience of, and to bring a perspective into, and it's not just family, because a lot of you are bringing God through the story of being rejected from family, not having that support. But imagine coming into this world with a desire to emancipate those that you are meant to encounter, and finding out that you denied everyone that was ever meant to be loved by you love. And you denied yourself all that love. And you denied all of the ancestors that you came in with the experience of emancipation through your perspective, which is supposed to be their perspective, but it was hijacked by some status symbol or some desire outside of yourself that had nothing to do with what it meant to be you and express you. And so no one's going to let you build your tower on that. Not the ancestors, not the gods that meant to express through you, with you, in conjunction with the whole, which is like what I'm calling God these days, the one in the whole, that consciousness, that experience, that gift. And so we're meant to kind of take a broader view, and we take that broader view, and when we take that broader view, we sublimate the tiny view that is a torture chamber, the petty view that is a torture chamber. That petty view, so-and-so said this about me, and that's what they think, and I think, and you know what, and me, and I bet, and them, and blame, and but mine better, but this is how, but you know what, and I wouldn't. Like, that's a torture chamber, and that's small, and there's, and what you're creating with that are these like tiny little like bindings. When you start, yeah, that's right. When you start binding people, man, you're just binding yourself, right? When you are operating in fear and defense, and someone has to agree with that story, but if it's just you spinning out, that's not what's going on. You know what I mean? Like, if you're participating with a story that doesn't have the other person in it, and you're spinning out on underworld shadow boxing, you're actually spinning out on your projections. And so I tell you this because I want that torture chamber of all the little things that we pick up as distractions to keep us from whatever that anticipation, like we're at that anticipating grief or slavery, or there's no end to it. I want to come back to this kiss, because with the kiss, this is important. I was praying, I was talking to one of my gods, and the God that I've been working with lately has been like very deep conversations in prayer. And I was talking to this God about love, because this God has a lot of I love yous, you know what I mean? Like that's their energy. They're like, you know, God is love. Yeah, certain gods, right, more so than others, like work with the substance of love. And so this God works with the substance of love, like very heavily. And so I was talking to this God about, you know, the autistic experience. If you grow up and you're autistic, like you're not people pleasing your way into, like I have to be so careful. Like my guys are like, shoot, wait, stop that. Not everyone is autistic. But there's a way in which you do have like a battery of rejection that comes along with what it is to express ancient genes that strike people as uncanny valley at an energetic level. Before you open your mouth, before you even do anything, you know, before you have an experience, you're like a little energetically different enough. So especially if you're an early, like this is an adaptation, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's an ancient adaptation and it's resurfacing, but you've had an experience of rejection. That's where the rejection sensitivity comes in. You've had an experience of not operating, playing the same, you know, you're not playing the games that other people are playing. And so you're constantly, you know, having like a mismatch from where your perspective is and what you're doing with where other people are. And so I bring that up because that can cause you to believe that you are unworthy of love at a fundamental unconscious level. If you have just been, and if you're born in a family with people who are deranged on selfishness, a lot of people were, you know, like there's no two ways about it. Like, you know, the majority actually are, you know, people who have had in one way or another parents who just weren't able to meet their emotional needs. That's another way in which we can kind of like encounter this I'm not worthy of love. And then we produce and we do and we work and we make our claim and we try and we try and we try because we're proving that we're worthy of love in one way or another. Like think about the unconscious motivations, right? And so I was talking to this God who is, you know, basically said, well, you know, of course, you know, you're taught that you're unworthy of love because no one's going to give you anything if they perceive you having whatever, blah, 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 on and on and on and on. And then this God said, even if no one ever told you you were worthy of love, you are worthy of love. And the reason that you are worthy of love, even if no one ever told you you were worthy of love, is because you are love. You are made of love. Love moves through you. You generate love. You experience love. You act in love. You are made with love. You are worthy of love because you are love itself. And it has nothing to do with what anybody has or has not told you. It has nothing to do with the stories that people project or the way that they interact with your particular spicy, right? You know, whatever it ends up being. And so with the kiss here being about, you know, you being worthy of love, despite what anybody does with the fact that you are worthy of love. We start with you are worthy of love for no other reason that you are made. It's part of your alchemy. It's part of your ingredients. You are the substance of that which, you know, it's like your guys are basically like, we're doubling down. You're worthy of love. You are love. Same. Like there's no argument to be made there. So when we start with that in terms of what God has in mind for us, we're coming into this love with this vision of the life that we're meant to have and the life that we're having. We're not expecting or demanding or operating in systems of disappointment and despair because that which we generate is not ours. We're generating it. It's ours. Now, that, like, I know that there's disappointment. You know what I mean? We all have levels of disappointment. But let's go a little farther with this. Because what are you going to build that tower on? Are you going to build that tower on somebody's going to show up one day and love you in the right way and then that's going to make it all better? Don't do that, okay? Because love is always accompanied by a lot of other things and none of it's perfect and all of it is about the substance of evolution and our collective conscious expansion. We come through to experience these stories to work things out with the love that we generate and the love that others generate. But there's no exchange and there's no like value system. Like this is such a bigger picture and love is such a bigger picture and love's operation is such a bigger picture than like everybody got a trophy then, but not me. And I know that my messages, man, they can be so brimstone so much of the time. But when I tell you that, what's the alternative? Facilitating maladaptive daydreaming, facilitating escapism. Like I'm feeling the Mercury retrograde like rise up, and like, don't you dare, don't you dare, you know. But I'm saying this with so much love, because if no one confronts these things in us, we're not really being helped, are we? Right? If I didn't tell you that you manifest with your unconscious mind a lot more than you manifest with your, like, writing it down 3 times, 6 times, 9 times, all of the rituals are there to facilitate an unconscious transfer into a different perspective. That doesn't come from me, by the way. Somebody else, I don't even know where that came from, but that did come from someone else. And it's true that it's our unconscious minds that manifest more than anything else. And so if we're not really doing the work of attending to that unconscious space honestly, if we're escaping it and escaping it and escaping it, and substances to escape it, and people to escape it, and limerence to escape it, and stories to escape it, then we're stepping out of our power, and we're stepping out of our capacity to create, and we're sidestepping what it means to really engage with what belief does in fact have to offer us. And so there's no gain in being harsh that would in any way, like, not you know what I mean? Like there's no gain in it. I guarantee that there's no gain in speaking the harsh truth with the Queen of Wands here, that isn't the gain of somebody sort of being able to confront some pattern that is keeping them from emancipation, and the 6 of Wands victories in their life that they come to spirituality to attain. We don't come to spirituality to be pacified like it's an opiate. I mean, some people really do. A lot of people really do. We come to spirituality so that we can work on what it means to have belief functional and operational. And part of what it means for belief to be functional and operational is that we're cleaning up that unconscious space. We're in a relationship with our unconscious mind that is not hiding from what's really there. We're not building foundations on driving ourselves away from ourselves, and away from what we're supposed to be doing, and away from who we are, and away from what it means to engage with the growth that we came to this earth to engage with. You came here to grow. You didn't come here to achieve like 15 goals and then, you know, hold it. You know what I mean? You came here to grow. And so let's take a look at what it would mean to overcome the Devil card when it comes to your, like, scope of vision, your depth of field, your ability to work with the divine genius, to receive that inspiration. You're not receiving the inspiration from the divine genius if you're looking at somebody else for it. You're not receiving the inspiration from the divine genius if you're running away from yourself. And that doesn't mean we don't inspire each other. It just means that prayer, the divine genius, when I talk about the divine genius, I'm talking about a spirit. I'm talking about a guide. I'm talking about the gods. I'm talking about God. I'm talking about prayer, a practice that incorporates actual belief. Not I want to believe, I actually believe. And then the outcome of actual belief is very different from the outcome of I want to believe. It's not wearing it like a sweater. It's not an aesthetic. It's actually very powerful. And so with this Queen of Wands and the 6 of Wands, this victory over the Tower comes as an angel to save us from whatever it is that is taking us out of the life that we came here to live for the purpose of love. Like, bottom line, you love every person that you were meant to interact with, change, and move on from in one way or another. You love the person that is you, that is carrying all of these genes that are emancipated through the very unique expression that is your unique expression. And if your unique expression is hard for you to find, that's going to be what ancestral work is all about. What ancestors are you listening to? What are the stories that they're telling you? Why are they telling you that stories? Why do they want you to relive those stories? What is calling you into those experiences? How are you leaving those experiences? What is the wisdom that you're gathering? How are you transmitting that to others so that the whole is evolving together? Where's your heart in all of that? See the big picture. That's what we're doing today. Today, with the vision and see the big picture, your call as a spiritual person is to see the big picture. Seeing the big picture means that you believe that there are gods and goddesses, that there are gods, period. That there is more than meets the eye than the material world is telling you that there is. If you know that there's more than meets the eye, more than what the material world is telling you there is, there are rules to that other world. There is a system of organization to that other world. We are in an ecosystem in the world that we can see. We are in an ecosystem in the world that we can't see. The gods see us. We have witnesses. Those witnesses, it's not like the Christian ethos of like the God that sees everything and is judging you for heaven or hell. No, you escape nothing. Everything is seen by the gods, and they work with you accordingly. Not with punishment, but they'll work with you accordingly. And so with this, take a leap of faith in the grasshopper, and what does it mean to step into a life of faith? Well, it's sublimating that big small picture of petty stuff into a big picture of there's a lot more going on. I am eternal. You are eternal. Believe that you are eternal, and the tyranny of the urgent becomes much less. And so let's get a couple more cards here. Because the victory that is coming in for you first starts in your body. The energetic match that you are like linking up with in the way of an opportunity, a story, an inspiration, a love affair with the divine. This takes so many different forms. It starts with an internal expectation that says, I am worthy of love. Knowing that you are worthy of love, believing you are worthy of love, participating with love because it's something that you generate. And what it means to have love is to participate with what it means to generate love long before it has anything to do with the participation of another person. Because you might have all of the right answers, but if you have no love, then what is your connection to the divine? You might be safe and you may have created the safety that you most desire, but is that safety also keeping you from connection and keeping you inside? Yes, limerence is an archetype. It's the gods. It's calling you out of the cave. It's giving you something to move towards in the way of inspiration. But we don't shut down over lost opportunities that didn't come in on our journey from one place to another when the outcome was never meant to be. And I said this in a TikTok reading, the outcome was never meant to be getting the person, the job, the lifestyle. The outcome was always meant to be you becoming the person that you became. And so to be shut down around becoming the person that you became, this is a default of not self-love. And we're called into self-love. And again, I am worthy of love. Even if nobody says I am worthy of love, because I am the source. I generate love. I am a source of love. I am made of love. I am part of what love is. I am worthy of love, even if no one says it. You start there. You mean it. You believe it. It's not a consolation prize on anything, ever, because of the world that we're in, because of the structures that we're a part of, because love never arrives unaccompanied. Love always arrives accompanied by someone's baggage, their insecurity, their projections. And the bigger the light that you are in the world, the more you are fielding imperfect love. Absolutely. The more you are getting punished because you don't love someone the way that they love you. The more you are getting punished because, you are this way, but we're going to level you down this way. The more you're getting punished, I'm not going to give you anything because you have everything. Like, there's so much there that, and that's like one way of looking at it. Everyone has their story that they're trying to access love through, and all the reasons why it's foreclosed to them. Every single person is in some relationship with that very dance in one way or another. And I don't care whether it looks like something that is, one way or another, like everyone's doing this dance. Everyone's doing this dance. There is no hierarchy of suffering. There is no hierarchy or supremacy of self, and all we're doing with the measuring and the measuring wands and the blame of assigning to this group or that group our suffering is, again, we don't tell yourself disempowering stories. We manifest with our unconscious minds. If the disempowering stories keep coming back and we find ourselves repeating them, or we find ourselves hiding from life because of them, then they're there for us to disempower so that we can participate. Leap of faith with a life that calls us out of serving that like a god, serving the disappointments like a god, serving the limitations like a god. Making those limitations all that there are, all that there is. Not alchemizing with belief. So with this Eight of Cups being about walk away from the devil, walk away from those toxic thoughts. They are more powerful than just the right or the wrong way of thinking about it. And those, I see a tidal pool, a riptide of habits and tendencies to entertain and channel the ancestors that are all about supremacy in one way or another. They're all about blame in one way or another. And it's not that their unfinished stories about unfairness aren't worth witness. They are worth witness, but they are also worth being sublimated into a much bigger picture about being worthy of love despite the story, worthy of love despite what it looks like, worthy of love despite what people think, worthy of love despite how people treat you because of what they think, worthy of love no matter what, because the source of love is within the person. And therefore, it's not a question of worthy, it's you are love. And so with the Three of Swords, broken heart here, it's not that we're, poo-pooing. The Nine of Cups is everything you've ever wished for, everything that you've ever wanted, whatever these blocks were. Two of Swords around that. It wasn't offered. It was, there's nothing else. There's so much here with Two of Swords. Foreclosed opportunities. I can't see where it's coming from. I'm worthy of love, says who? If it's just me, I don't know. You know what I mean? That Nine of Cups is where's all my wish fulfillment? Where's that adoration that I see somebody looking at somebody else with, but I haven't had the experience of? Where's that birthday party that I've seen people get every year, but I'm keep on only having this other experience? Where is the thing? Well, what kind of love can you bring to the story that you're having? What force of God and the force of creation can you bring into transforming the circumstances that you're in into a different experience? What can you do to call in the energies of all the divine forces? What can you do to call in the energy of God in relationship to, in co-creation with, supplementing to the larger story? Working with the materials that you have on hand and bringing the spiritual force field that you have from within, looking at what's happening in the unconscious space to bring you into stories, to bring God into and the creative force in for transformation. That's what the spiritual walk is. It is a walk of sublimating. It is a walk of alchemy. It is not a walk of demanding outcomes. And if you're not, if it's not what you think it is, then you put in this effort and the exchange wasn't right. You know what I mean? Or I believed this and it didn't come out that way. Well, how much of the unconscious impulse behind that belief was just to get ahead of somebody else? How much of the unconscious impulse was just to secure a place of further safety away from what it is to connect? What about what was behind it, is causing the kind of situation that you find yourself in? The closer we are to the gods, the more they're not going to let us go down roads that aren't meant for us. If the gods have abandoned you, they're going to let you go quite a ways, And I don't think the gods ever abandon you. That's not even really possible. But what I'm saying is, if you find yourself battered, by things, doors closing, that a lot of the time means those things are not meant for you, and you have such a strong life path that those doors are going to close. And if you've gone down roads that were not meant for you, there was something that you needed in the lesson of the final lesson. I'm looking at one person. I'm not like physically there's a symbol. Like there's like this coming through for one person in the collective. The final lesson of like, this is what it costs to deny your own life path. This is what it costs to give yourself away for wanting somebody else, or wanting to be somebody else, or wanting having some. This is what it is to abandon yourself. This is the cost, over and over again. Stop doing it. That's why we have these experiences, to tame that unconscious impulse that we might just not get a hold of until we really examine it. And we're all on that path right now, you know what I mean, with the self here and the womb, the blueprint you come in with, the plan you come in with, the love that you're working through, and then what it is to express through all of the aspects of the genetics and the traits and the stories that come with them and the influences that come with them, and then to tame those influences by taking that eye of God, that creator force field, working with the substance of God and bringing it into the imperfect situation, creating through it. That's the whole thing. It's not much more than that. What can you do with what you're dealing with? See the big picture. You are the Queen of Wands. You have a 6 of Wands capacity to win every battle. The kiss at the bottom of the deck. You are adored and loved by the divine. You wouldn't be here otherwise. The Tower is you're not going to build a foundation on a life that was never meant for you. Not once, not twice, not 3 times. What is the drive? What is the drive away from yourself? What is the drive like away from looking at this unconscious space and really beginning to like tangibly work with what is coming through and what you're seeing and what you're experiencing, and how does that translate into a place where you can bring consciousness and make meaning with it and tame it. Like there's a lot there that is art, you know, and the source of all art. And so with the piece here and the by the book, you're in a bigger picture, but you're also aided by energies that are much bigger, much more powerful. And I say this all the time, and it's really, really important for you and all of us to sort of grapple with what this means. When the divine aspects of God, the Father, the Mother is something very, the Mother's a little sentience. The Mother's sentience. The Father's consciousness. So that's not male or female, right? But the divine masculine aspect does operate as a consciousness force field. And the divine feminine aspect does operate as an unconscious generator of potential and forms, and all of the forms that ever were and all of the forms that ever will be. And so they're different points of creativity. And so when we think about the piece and the be flexible, what is meant for you in terms of like you're grappling and you're bringing meaning and you're transforming and you're expanding consciousness through your perspective and you're learning to work with that unconscious space, like flexibility. Be flexible. There is a rigidity. You are carrying a treasure trove in what you're supposed to be doing, who you're supposed to be. Who you're supposed to be is meant to meet the person, and that like there's actually, you know, who you are supposed to be is meant to be meet the person and the people that you are meant to walk with and interact with and create with. If again you're running away from who you're meant to be, you're running away from those people too. You can't really screw up what is meant for you, but you can delay it indefinitely. That's a strange thing. Like you can't stop it from happening. You can't foreclose your fate. But if you lock the door and sit inside waiting for it to come to you, you can wait forever. You always have the freedom to create into the moment and into the hour and into the experience and into the world, no matter what. That is the free will. And so sometimes we are driven out of the house because we have to make a living, and then we accidentally make a friend, and that's how our guides work. But when we do have greater freedom and greater choices, we can often just lock ourselves away from life because of the disappointments, and that's an inflexible place. And so we're meant to have peace about what is meant for us, because when it comes to the gods, and I almost lost this, when an opportunity is foreclosed and they say no, that wasn't meant for you. No, we gave you some opportunity related to learning this thing, but ultimately that was never meant for you. Ultimately, it was a lesson about not abandoning yourself once again. Ultimately, it was a lesson about blah, blah, blah. Like, those no's, when the divine says, no, you're not going to take a step forward. No, you are not going to have a different story. No, you are not going to go through that door. Those no's, that destroyer that comes in, that can shut us down, but you're cautioned not to let that shut you down, especially around ideas of whether or not the divine is for or against you. Because the divine has yeses as powerful as those no's. God says yes as powerfully as God says no. And so when you are working with this idea of faith, working with this idea of what is meant for you, and you understand that, yeah, sometimes the door closed. Sometimes a relationship's not meant for you. Sometimes what you hoped for doesn't come to fruition. Sometimes the outcome was never about what was going to happen, but who you were supposed to become. Who you were supposed to become is the yes. Where you are is the yes. What you're working with is the yes. The yeses are as loud as the no's for everybody. And so, I invite you to step into some of what it is to be flexible about what has been offered to you and what you are meant to be creating with it. Because there's victory in it. And there is hope in it. And we are called to participate. And so, the chariot is taking you somewhere, and there's always going to be the inspiration. Yeah, with the Fool card, someplace new. There's always going to be something with the inspiration, and then we have to choose to experience. We have to choose to act. And we take our position related to the faith that we choose to have. We work with belief in any way that we want to, but ultimately, the universe is for you. Ultimately, God is for you. Ultimately, you came here to evolve and expand consciousness. And you came here to heal that which is in your lineage. And you came here to operate through certain stories and certain tendencies and certain probabilities related to this stuff that you were going to be in relationship with your whole life because you were carrying the traits of. And you get to choose to express any part of that cacophony of traits. You're meant to love yourself. You are worthy of love. You're meant to participate in love and participate in bringing love into the world. Love is so many things that with 5 of voices, 5 of swords. Love is not competition. Love is not comparison. Love is not acquisition. Love is not possession. Love is so many things. And so the Wheel of Fortune here with the page of inspiration is, take that inspiration that says, I am worthy of love because I am, not because of anybody's participation, not because somebody told me, but because I am made of it. Therefore, it is me and I'm worthy of it. And I expand love in my life by participating with the substance of love. And I expand love in my life by bringing love into the world with me. It is not about an exchange. If you find yourself defaulting at the story that says, I bring love into the world and everybody rejected me and nobody appreciated it, and so I'm not going to love anybody else. And I'm not going to have love anymore. I'm not going to do it. You are love. Denying a part of yourself, cutting off your limb, amputating something that you are because of something outside of yourself. That's there's an old saying about bitterness that is, bitterness is drinking poison and expecting somebody else to get sick. Or vengeance. I think that's vengeance. Vengeance is drinking poison and expecting somebody else to get sick. Take that inspiration from the guides and the gods. You are worthy of love. Participate with love. Bring love into the world. There is no hierarchy of love. So if no love is worth anything, because that particular romantic love, there's no hierarchy of love. We expand love in our lives by participating with it. And then the variety of love comes in what it means to be participating with a variety of love. And so, there is an action-oriented aspect of this with the Page of Wands and the change that is coming in. And the 5 of Voices is if you find yourself fighting, here we go, there's a card underneath it. The 5 of Voices is 5 of Swords, and the Page of Voices is a Page of Swords. If you find yourself fighting with a message that says you are worthy of love, that is an unconscious thing that you need to attend to because you're manifesting with it. And it would not be love to avoid saying that in favor of something about somebody's thinking about you, right? And so we have to kind of do the spiritual work is supposed to be hard. It's supposed to be difficult. It's supposed to challenge us, okay? Like it just generally is, because the unexamined soul, the unexamined self, the unexamined underworld, if we don't bring the light of clarity, if we don't bring the consciousness that we operate with into that space, it's like we're not shining the light on it. And so the Hermit card, yeah, a lot of us are real hermits here with the Ten of Materials, though. Ten of Pentacles, you know, we started with this like devil. We got to walk away from the devil. The toxic thoughts. Are you feeding an unconscious impulse of, you know, everybody sucks, everybody sucks, everybody sucks? Well, then everybody's going to suck. They will. Because you're going to be looking at them like they suck, and they're going to feel you looking at them like they suck, and they're going to think that you suck, and now everybody's going to suck back and forth and around. And that's really, like, that's not what we do. We, you know, that the mistake of a spiritual perspective, that high road perspective, you know, everybody is on the big path and you're up higher, you know, you're up on the side of the mountain. It's a lonelier path. It's the hermit's path. It's you can see out, you know, all the way to where the path is going because you're up higher. And you can do anything with those heights. You can judge every single person. That person's moving too slow. Look at the way that that person is holding everybody else behind because they're bringing through a chorus of ancestors who can do nothing but complain about everybody else. You know what I mean? Like we can sit here and judge as having that higher perspective. Again, you're tuning into the radio station of everybody sucks, or you're tuning into the radio station of that bigger picture that says everybody's on some adventure. And everybody's adventure is between them and God. And where we generate love and participate with love and bring love into the world, where we bring a creative capacity and make meaning and expand the consciousness, that is the agent of and substance of God that we are participating with, that when we're over and through with this life, we have a relationship with. And we end up having an eternal experience in relationship with, in one way or another. Not every aspect of organized religion is a lie. A lot of those aspects of organized religion were truths that prop up the lie. And so, you know, one of the things is that if you participate with the energies of love and the energies of creativity and the energies of curiosity and all of these energies, all these natural forces of God that existed before you and after you, you develop a relationship with them that is eternal. If all you participate with is cutting somebody else down to size because you saw how they looked at you and what they thought and look at them, like pick a lane and you decide who you're going to be, and that's going to be like what your eternal, you're not stuck there, there's no hell, but you're going to be starting from a much like yuckier place you know, than somebody who has done the work with the internal spaces with the underworlds. There's a lot of stuff that my cat just like woke up from a dream and she hissed right, and that's significant right there. There's a lot that we're reacting to that's not there, that's coming from that unconscious place, that dream space. And that dream space is not a space of truth or false. It's a place of potential related to belief and what we make with the life that we have and the time that we have and the tools that we have and the creative force that moves through us. And so, yeah, this Ten of Pentacles, that's going to be about the right kind of foundation, the right kind of foundation that is established with a much bigger picture. And the Hermit card, as you go within to find your way out, that is a relationship with God. But that relationship with God, if it's not leading you into greater emancipation, is it an escape? I bring these messages and I flinch the same as you might be flinching. I have to like reckon with the substance of what comes through as much as anybody else. But I feel like it's important to bring this stuff to light and to talk about this stuff, because the nature of truth is that when you hear it, you're like, I know that's true. I might not want to hear it. I might not like it. It might be ruffling my feathers. I didn't want to expect to have to be confronted with whatever. But a real spiritual walk, honestly, is, again, it's about emancipating you. It is about getting you those superpowers. It is about putting you on that 10 of materials, 10 of pentacles kind of a place. It's about getting you in manifest so that you actually have things in your life that are sustaining you, that are nutrients, healthy. Like if there's a deprivation of love and the only thing that you've got in the way of access to love comes from what you're able to generate from that place of the hermit, that spiritual walk should be walking you into greater vistas, greater expansions, greater And everybody's different. No one's expansion looks the same. It's not a popularity contest. But if you have no love and you can't feel love, that hermit is supposed to be bringing you towards, in relationship to God, greater access to what it is to feel love. Given whatever the circumstances is, that creative force field is supposed to be expanding that heart space. And that spiritual walk says, yeah, that's what I'm doing. The spiritual walk is not, when am I going to get my next hit of inspiration that gets me 10 feet further away from myself? When am I going to get that next hit of assisted maladaptive daydreaming? You know, when am I going to get that next hit when there's the forces of the gods and the forces of the ancestors and the forces of God saying, sublimate all of the racket into this much bigger picture where the very basis of everything is that you are worthy of love, no matter what anyone says and no matter what happens, that you are made of the substance of love, that love is in relationship with you forever, and that developing that relationship is participating with what it is to generate love. And in generating love, there are lessons to be learned about the right and the wrong way to access love in the right and the wrong way to experience it. Like it's never going to be an easy process where you just walk around like a butterfly singing loving songs. Love never goes anywhere without being accompanied by all of your issues. But in the process of experiencing and working out and having, like, where you're not numbing and escaping and avoiding love, you're expanding love, you're breaking through ceilings on what you're capable of and what it is to connect. This is why we do this, so that you do have these experiences, that you don't foreclose the possibility of them based on stories about what you're capable of or what's happened to you or what you think people are going to say or do. Because again, it's holy. It has nothing to do with what other people say or do. Your guidance is divinely guided. And what lights you up, that's going to have a lot to do with your purpose. Where are you being called to journey to? What is the destination of the person that you're becoming? Beauty and devotion, priestess, mystic, teacher. Creating heaven on earth, it's happening. And double mission, channeling and uplifting humanity. There's a call to not leave the power of the divine in the hands of people who are like controlling and manipulative, but to rather create a place on earth, heaven on earth, with and through the divine, by becoming a living example of what a divinely influenced presence on earth really can be. With the beauty, devotion, priestess, mystic, teacher, and your guidance is divinely guided, become the representation of the divine feminine aspect of God. And the divine feminine aspect of God expands on earth. You're channeling it in. That's a pretty tall order. There's no two ways about it. But a spiritual walk is just that. And that does not mean that the divine feminine aspect of God is this loving, self-abandoning, people-pleasing. No, the divine feminine aspect of God is often really rejected, misused. There is no devotion. Where's the devotion to the mother in our society? You know, our mothers are calling churches for formula and being denied. Mothers have the least status, not the most. Most of the time, they're looked down upon if they're not, doing it perfectly, or if they don't have everything. Where is the muse? How is the muse treated? A lot of times like a prostitute. Like, where is the divine feminine aspect of God in representation in the world? And what is our relationship to it? And what does it mean to really heal it? And so when we think about these things, when we really face the shadows, when we really look at our unconscious impulses, how much of your unconscious impulses are in service of defeating the divine feminine aspect of God in yourself and then in others, without even realizing it, because you're not even realizing what it is. It's inspiration in a lot of ways. Like, what arises from that unconscious space. And the form that you give it is the influence of the divine masculine aspect within you, giving that inspiration form. It is a back and it's a forth. One influences the other. Both operate in what it means to create into the material world something. And so that union starts with you, with the kiss, with the acceptance of that you have a purpose, that you were made for something very like specific, that who you are and the genes that you carry and the responsibility therein and the karma therein, that you are in that life and in those circumstances as a labor of love for everyone that came before and everyone that will come after. And that's where we're going to leave this. It's kind of like, it's like weirdly like harsh, but also like, you know, your guides love who you are and they love what you're here to do, and they love you, and you're worthy of love. And if your expectation of love is not something that's going to be perfect and somehow save you and be a savior, but rather something that you participate in the salvation of the whole and the salvation of the self through generating with, like, we're going to just rewrite everything, because that's what the guides really have us doing with this treasure that you are carrying, that you bring into the world with you, that is valuable. Doesn't matter what people say, do, or think. That is the most important thing for you to walk away from this reading with, is it does not matter what people think. You are worthy of love. It does not matter what people think. You are worthy to express yourself the way that you express yourself. It doesn't matter what people think. You are worthy to look the way that you look. It doesn't matter what people think. You are worthy of the recognition that is due you. It doesn't matter what people think. The gods witness you. The gods witness everyone. You are eternal. Your reward is in fact eternal, because that is your place, that you are an eternal being having a temporary experience. And the eternal experience, you know, that you have has a lot to do with the way that you manage this temporary experience. And so your responsibility is not to how you look to others. Your responsibility is to your eternal relationships and what you are eternally becoming. And so we're going to leave it there. And I will see you guys again soon.